School is in session. One of the things I love doing in our school community is at least once a week, we open up my millionaire conversations to all of the participants. This is a way that they can get their questions asked. I do think it is always valuable to get insights from more and more folks. So again, this is the Three Amigos. School is in session. Let's welcome Dion to the show. How you doing, Dion?
Howdy, I'm doing great. I'm always excited for these. It tells me what day of the week it is.
It must be Wednesday. That is awesome. And Matt, how are you?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here as always.
Awesome, awesome. Well, folks, this is really simple. If you are in school and online with us, you can either raise your hand if you would like to ask the question yourself, or you can put it in comments, and I will do my best to get to the chat and get the questions. I usually go in the order they are asked, so the sooner you put it in chat, the sooner your question will get answered. But I actually want to start this conversation with a topic that Dion dropped on the world yesterday. Dion is saying that 2024 is going to be the golden age of home buying. And I want to know, what is the heck is he talking about, Dion? What are you doing as Matt shakes his head?
Clickbaiter.
No, the golden age. And actually, I went to do the video, the golden age of real estate buying, and I thought I would get a bunch of hate. I thought I would get the head shaking that Matt did. I thought people would go, oh, the golden age of real estate. It's so hard to buy right now. There's no way you can do it. And I made my points and I articulated them, and I thought, okay, I'll throw this out there. Come at me. I've got thick skin. I only had one, and I'll call it out, dumb comment. The rest kind of got it. And so really what I did is I broke down, it's hard to buy. We have high prices and high rates, right? That makes it very hard to cash flow. I get it. It's hard, but it's always hard. Look back at any time in you guys are, you're not quite as old as I am, but you're close, and you're half a century of life-ish. When was it easy? In 2011, when you had this huge crash, where'd the lenders go?
Exactly.
And everyone was saying double dip crash, don't buy. And then 2013, prices started going above 2018. I bought a duplex. When everyone was saying in 2013, prices went above where they were in 2008 when the crash happened. So they were saying this is unsustainable. It has to crash. Don't do it. 2015, I buy another duplex. Everyone says the silver tsunami is about to hit. It's all going to be flooded with inventory because the baby boomers hit their first year of retirement. It can't last. It has to crash. 2018, I pay off a mortgage and buy another duplex. Interest rates were above 6%, and it is impossible to buy if interest rates are above 6% because prices didn't come down. Wages hadn't come up, rents hadn't gone up. We had high prices and high interest rates. You can't do it. 2020, we have a pandemic, an eviction moratorium, forbearance, stock market crash of 30% in one day, pretty much, in March. All of the reasons not to buy. So I bought a fourplex and a triplex. It's never been easy. 2021, when forbearance is ending, and people like Peter Schiff are saying, forbearance is going to cause all these foreclosures. It's going to flood. Don't buy it. Bought a duplex. And then I retired and walked away from my job as we're facing a recession. And then I expanded my market and I looked at a few things. If we look back, people will say 2011 was the best time to buy because it was the bottom. 2013, you were just coming up and you had a decade of growth to go all the way up. And then in 2020, like, well, of course, interest rates went down. It was the best time to buy. So we can go at the time, it's the hardest based on the knowledge we had at the time to buy. And everyone was unique and different than the last. So right now in 2028, people are going to look at 2024. So we'll flash forward 4 years. We're going to look back and people are going to say, you had a window of opportunity where remote workers moved out from the cities and pushed rents up, but didn't push home prices up because they can't buy because they might get called back to the office. So you can go out like I did from Seattle. I went out to Mason and Kitsap counties. Rents have they're about 80% higher, 80% over 2 years ago. Prices are about 5% more. So I'm finding cash flow deal after cash flow deal. I've sent some to some friends out because I'm only looking to buy the one that I did and maybe one more next year. And you have this window of opportunity since November 18th, 2023, this golden age of real estate, the entire year of 2024, where you can buy a duplex, triplex, or fourplex for 5% down as an owner-occupied house hack. That's not going to last forever. And when it goes away, people are going to look back and go, why didn't you buy in the golden age of real estate when there were markets where rents had pushed up, and prices hadn't. And you could buy with a 5% down payment. And so when I start this with, this is the golden age of real estate, people shake their head. I get it. It's hard, but it's always been hard. And there's always been opportunities. It's finding the freaking opportunity at the right time.
So let me kind of summarize it, because it's an interesting riddle that ties together really well. So basically what you're kind of highlighting for folks is, hey, there are some markets out of, office areas, right? Remote work, that have seen an influx of people, tenants. You have already seen rents rise 50, 80, 100%, but home prices haven't. Right. In your example, I think you said rents were up 80 and prices were up 5. And again, if you are a real estate investor and you're looking for cash flow, or what we call yield or return on capital, that's a dislocation. That doesn't normally happen, right? Because values are based on rents. So if you could get in front of that, and then, oh, by the way, if you add on top of that house hack, 5% down, live for free, I mean, things can get stupid. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. And so I think remote work makes it easier to buy. But if you don't work a remote job and you live in a slightly rural area, rents are higher, right? So it's hard to do that. And when you go to buy, this can make house hacking more viable in a rural area. I've talked often about, if you can house hack in Seattle and save $4,000 a month, that's a huge impact. But if you house hack in Gary, Indiana, and you save $800 a month, that's not such an impact. But now if you house hack in Gary, Indiana, or Rosamond, California, or whatever rural area that you can go to, and the rents have pushed up, you can buy that duplex, triplex, or fourplex and get paid to live there. People are going to look back and say this was the golden age. But right now they're not going to say it, because it's going to take work. It's going to take not living in the city where your property has a walkability score. You're going to have that, 15-minute drive to the closest store, right? But they're there, and people are finding those deals all the time.
I like it. Well, Matt, you heard the golden age of real estate. What do you think now that you've kind of got the logic from Dion? What do you think?
I don't think it'll be golden, only because I think the banks are going to dry up lending. I think that's going to be
really.
I think that's going to be the hiccup. So I think it will be for those that can, for those that have prepared themselves, for those that have, I don't know, refied their entire portfolio, for those that, saw things like this coming 2 and 3 years ago, like what you and I were talking about, Mike, and refinancing, massive swaths of our portfolio.
Yep.
I've got debt that every day makes me giggle. I've got giggly debt.
Yeah.
And it's because I get to look at it and go, I don't know the next time I'm going to see 4. The problem that I'm seeing now is, as you guys know, I'm super active with banks. I talk to bankers all day long, talk to them all the time. I've already talked to 3 different banks this morning.
Wow.
And every single one of them, without exception, is deposit hunting. And that means one thing and one thing only, that those banks are struggling when they're looking for deposits and they're reaching out to you. So I agree with all of Dion's tenants. They're 100% correct. I think the problem remains that the system is about to go through a bit of a bumpy road that's not going to be nearly as bad as 08. But let's face it, most banks that have these exposures to these commercial assets that we all agree are in trouble, these commercial assets are going to get absolutely buried. The problem is they're on the same balance sheet. So this is where the rhyme comes in. This is where it's not the exact same song. This is where it's just a rhyme. And the rhyme is that it's going to happen. It's happening in a different market. It's still going to affect the banks. The banks are still going to have a problem. They're still kicking the can down the road. I know that. I've spoken with a number of bankers off the record, and I've just said, tell me how many extend and pretends you've done. They're like, man, it's been a while since I've heard that term, but yeah, that's basically what we're doing. So they're doing extended pretends. They're begging people for deposits. These are all the things that are happening when the system is, about to be upset a bit. So I think that Dion's 100% right on the buy side. I think that there's no better time than to house hack. I think there's no better time than with the 5% down. I think that as I've done, I've explored, I've continued to go north and west on my on the towns that I do business in, because I recognize that I can still capture 20% yields in those areas, and I still want to be there. But the problem is going to remain when rich people need money, we get it, no problem. When average people need money, they don't get it. And that's going to be the issue, is that they're going to look at it. And I don't know if the edict is coming down from Fanny Freddy on, 4 loans and that's it. And that's the best, that's what you're going to get. I don't know if that's going to happen again. It might, but I can tell you what will happen again. Banks are already drying up. Banks are already pricing things in a way that basically says, I need to go through the motions. I just had somebody that bought a duplex with 7.89% debt. And they've got a 720 credit score. So I think that's the banks tightening. That's the banks looking for deposits. That's the banks looking to create more reserves. That's what I believe is, and that's the only thing that stops it. Dion's 100% right on the property side, but on the banking side, that's going to screw everything up, which then opens the opportunity for seller financing. But how many people are going to have the guts to do something that a bank's not going to be willing to do and go, I'm going to trust you because you've got an honest face? I'm pointing at Mike, not Dion.
So, of course, Matt, I want to thank you for making my point.
Yeah. Okay.
So you said, and you used the tense, banks are going to dry up, which means future. I'm saying today, this freaking morning, is the golden age of real estate. And people are going to look back and you might actually make the point more that if in the next few months banks dry up, they'll go, oh, I wish I'd bought in 2024. Banks were lending to people. You could find those higher rents. You could do this house hack thing. And now you can't because the banks went away. You're actually saying I'm right.
I think they missed it. I think the golden age was 2023. I think they missed it. Properties have gone up. Properties have gone up in 2024. The debt's still really expensive, but I think in the beginning part of 23, I think that's where they're going to regret not having bought.
I agree. Properties went up in 2024, and Mike and I both appreciate the dollar that you're going to be sending.
It's not going to. I'm telling you, it's not.
You just said it.
Price.
You said the
it's
word.
not. It's not
running for a political party?
No, it's not average price. I know. Don't I sound like a Democrat? It's not average.
Well, one of them, yeah.
It's not average price. It's median, and that mother can fall fast.
Good.
So that's what we have. We have until the end of December to see, I guess.
Yep. Well, let's talk about this a little bit because I think there's a couple of things when you look at the chessboard that could happen. So let's go to commercial banks, which is really commercial and small banks that you brought up, Matt. I think it is absolutely fair to say that the banking crisis that I and many others thought was coming post Silicon Valley Bank and First Republic and that nightmare from I think it was 22 really hasn't reared its ugly head, right? I think we've had one, maybe two very small banks fail in the last 12 months, very small banks, like 1 or 2 branch kind of stuff. And, I thought we'd see 100 banks fail. The question is that because of extended pretend? Is that because of what was the bank term lending program? Is that just, is the fuse lit? It's just a longer fuse than I thought. I think we're going to find out. And one of the things that I think the Fed, again, if the Fed does cut, it's going to be to kind of save commercial banks. Because one of the things that's really weird about the system we have is commercial banks today could front run the Fed. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Well, they could take all their money and go buy 10-year treasuries. And oh, by the way, as rates fall, value goes up. So one of the reasons they might be deposit hunting is because they know there's a way to fix their balance sheet by buying treasuries and letting the Fed cut, and bingo bango, value grows. If that's what happens, then actually lending will increase, I think. If the balance sheet heals faster, and that's what a rate cutting cycle will do. What do you think of that?
I think they're not going to cut rates in a meaningful way because I think the banks, I don't think that's going to affect. I don't think it's going to move the needle like they think it is. They would need to cut so drastically because I think what the problem is, we're now, and if the number is, I hate it when people say, oh, well, that's if you believe that number. I got to believe the number that they put out because otherwise it's like, well, that number's true and that number's not. That's not how it works. It's either all garbage, which I believe it is, or it's not all garbage, but I believe it's all garbage. But I think that, I'm definitely not a crash bro because it took me 4 years to even start to be a little bit right because they haven't been right yet. But I think what transforms in 2025, I think what you said on last week's show, I think is right. I think the timing I just might have missed a bit, not a lot, but a bit. I think unemployment after the election starts to get really nasty. And that's what then starts to force the hands of these things happening. That's what it's all about, jobs. And and jobs, I think, is going to be a real problem because, you know, whoever if one party wins, they're going to do everything to whack that economy with a riding crop like you read about. And if another party wins, they're going to continue to try and drain the system, you know, and not do anything that actually spurs growth, right? So I think the challenge that we have is that unemployment's ticking up. It's now got some velocity behind it. Inflation is not tamed at all, you know, and because people feel it. I don't need to tell you, you ask 10 out of 10 people and they're like, holy hell.
Yeah.
Like, this is ridiculous. Like, I literally went and I got 2 things of butter, a thing of dish soap, and it was $22 at the grocery store.
Nuts.
Like, I told Ashley, I was like, we got a stream behind the house. Like, I'll rig something up. Like, it's fine. We'll do that. You know, but this is the lunacy. This is the silliness that we're getting to again. So I think that's what's going to happen. I think it's going to be jobs. I think it's going to be banks pulling back. My bank, and here's the thing, firsthand experience, my bank just yanked a deal on me.
Wow. That hasn't happened in a while.
No, like 6 months. And before that, it was 10 years. But they just yanked a deal on me. And in fact, I got a phone call 7 minutes before the show started from the president of the bank that I put him to voicemail. Because that's who I am. So I put him to voicemail because when I got the call saying, hey, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to adjust this. I go, the F you will. And you can tell him I said that. So, and this is a $2 billion bank, but these are the games that are going to start to get played. And here's the thing, you know, Mike, the bigger banks, because that's, you know, that's who your group goes with. They're going with Wells Fargo's and they're going with they're going with those people, right? They're the ones that are going to shut down first. They're the ones that are going to get ridiculous first. They're the ones that are going to what I call countrywide. In countrywide in 07, when I need a loan, they were 10.125%.
Yeah, they never say no. They just make the term so egregious that you say no.
Right. So I think that's sadly what's going to, largely speaking, I think that's sadly what's going to happen.
Yeah, the other thing I want to play with here is, again, looking at the chessboard is always hard trying to make predictions. I go back to a lot of this conversation being about owner occupants, about the 5% down, you know, dupes through quads. And we can't forget that there's still this huge buyer out there, right? Called, you know, Fanny Freddy. I don't know that their appetite turns off. And certainly if we get into a recession, I can't imagine them turning off. I could absolutely imagine Wells Fargo, you know, and whatnot, countrywide investors like, oh, sorry, we don't do 20% down anymore. Now it's 35. Well, that's just a no. That's like, you're not interested in investors. Given the fact that most banks sell their owner-occ loans to Fannie and Freddie, I don't know if that really slows down. What do you think?
They absolutely do. That's what, remember in 07? Well, so in 07, I think you were using private money. I was still using Fannie Freddie, and that's when they shut me off. But when they did what they did, they changed it from a 680 credit score to a 740 credit score. Okay. They changed it from a debt to income of, you know, 27% instead of 40%. Right. And so they weren't saying no, but it was like trying to kick the ball through field goal posts that had been moved 2 footballs apart. Right. Like, it was so narrow. And that's what helped crash everything, because it wasn't just that foreclosures were hitting the market, and it wasn't that people weren't interested in buying them. Yeah. They couldn't get the debt to buy them.
Right. No,
that was the problem.
Yeah, and I've obviously saw that up close and personal. It's where they went from, you know, unlimited loans to 10 loans to 4 loans. I want to hope, again, this is purely a hope, that they learn their lesson, because you're absolutely right. The reason we were buying properties at 90% discount is because nobody get a loan. So we went and borrowed 12%.
Yeah.
You know, so that was pretty good. Dion, what do you think of all this? You haven't been in for a while. What do you think of what we're talking about?
So I agree with Matt that after the election, things can change. And I have a video coming out I think it's, what is today? Was it tomorrow? On how the election can impact investing, right? And so this is the Cliff Notes version that hasn't been fully vetted out, but, and this is me talking, not Mike. I don't
Thank you.
care if it's a Republican or a Democrat in office. That to me doesn't say it's going to change the economy. What I want to watch for is, how is the government split? Do we have a landslide, red wave come in, and we get the House, the Senate, the presidency, all of it Republican? Things are going to tank because they can make huge changes, and uncertainty and with company owners makes unemployment rise. If you have a sweeping blue wave, you're going to have things tank because they can make huge changes, huge regulation changes. It's when we have the stability that comes from some going red and some going blue that I think things will stabilize. So when I'm watching the election, I sit back and I honestly don't care. I would prefer that it goes red and I get more tax cuts, but if it goes blue, I'm going to get massive appreciation caused by inflation. So I get super richer, which happened in the last 3 years. Net worth tripled since 2020. So as a human, do I have a preference? Yes, but as an investor, I'll benefit from either side. But what I'm hoping to see is that split government where we see stability, the recession goes away because people understand you can't make sweeping changes and have a huge regulatory impact because you have to fight the other side still. And so that's what I'm watching for in the election. More so than who wins, it's how much do they win.
I like it. I like it. Again, folks, you have the opportunity to ask us questions. If you raise your hand, you can come in and just actually ask your question. I'll call on you. And if you just put it in the chat, I will go top to bottom. So the first question, financial firefighter. So Joe Kuhn came out with a video apparently that says you will miss work after or during retirement. Do you miss work? Dion, I'll go to you first.
Sorry for what my face did right there. No, not in any way. I still have friends that work at the company that I worked at that were friends outside of work, right? I basically hired them, friends, nepotism, whatever you want to call that. And when I'm around them, I just don't care about anything with that company, that job. And I loved it for a decade. It was my life. I grew it, right? From 6 staff to 60, 1 location to 5. It was, I want to say 18 to 20 hours a day enmeshed in what that company was doing.
Yeah.
And when you retire, you realize that was a chapter, a good chapter of the book, but the next chapter can be better.
Yeah, I like it. How about you, Matt? You just left, or at least most recent of the three of us. Do you miss your job?
I call all of my fellow executives, all my fellow executive friends, and I ask them how work's going today. Sometimes I get hung up on. Sometimes I burst out laughing. But I'm just like, hey, buddy. Like, hey, how's it going? I was like, great. How's work today? Shut up. Yeah, that's what I usually get. So it's awesome. I haven't called. So I haven't called back. So I think that I didn't want it to be the way that it was for so many others before me. But it was exactly what it was so many others before me, because this just in, I'm not special. So the phone didn't ring. Didn't ring. Now they're absolutely dying. They're dying. They're having to dude, they're on the trade show circuit again. I blew that program up. It's like 13 sites a year. That is hell. That is hell. That is 13 weeks a year. You're on the road where you're working 24/7 for 5 days. So to answer your question, do I miss it? Hell no. Hell no. Absolutely not. I do not miss it at all. And I find it to be a wonderful thing for my friends outside of that company that I get to really enjoy and call them and make fun of. It's really a lot of fun.
Yeah, so I've actually been out of work the longest of the three of us. And, there's a little part of me that missed that last, because I always planned to be done at 50. And if you know the story, I left at 45. Now I'm 52, so I would have been out either way. But, part of me still, it's still in the back of my head. What could I have done those last 5 years? Right. And, I had a good run, 3 products to 100 million. Just killed it again the year before. It still bugs me that it went that way. I would have done my job for free. I loved it that much. Yeah. So, I mean, it does bug me a little.
Can I counter you there for a second?
Of course.
Yes.
Yes, please.
And this is just to help you,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I actually really care about you, Mike, and I want to help you. That's what this is, where this is coming from.
Guys, this is
A little part of your brain says, what could I have done if I stayed, right?
Right.
What did you do since you didn't? Look at this community you've created.
Yeah.
The thousands and thousands of people that are making changes with their life
Yeah.
based on the information that you're sharing because you didn't have the job and you could take the time to do this. So could you have made more money, bought some more rentals, maybe impacted in the next product? Yes. But could you have impacted thousands of lives? We don't
No,
have to
probably.
wonder.
No, that's very true. Yeah.
I am
That's a good-
lapping. I am lapping Dion and Lazy right now. Like it's obnoxious. I am lapping Dion and Lazy. You can ask Ash. Like literally yesterday, I think I sat on the couch for like a like 3 or 4 4-hour stints. It was impressive.
It was impressive.
Oh my word! Like it was. I think I had -7 steps on my pedometer.
Negative 7 steps.
Yeah, I don't know how you get negative steps. Maybe I walked them backwards. I don't know, but that's what happened. I
That's
am
hilarious.
all sorts of records, and it's thanks to Dion. Dion taught me. So now the worst part is I'm like, crap. I really got to do that email. I really. My attorney sent me something. He goes, hey, everything okay? I go, yeah. Why? He goes, I sent you 5 emails and you haven't answered one of them. I go, yeah. I'm like wicked busy. He goes, tell me what you're. And he's a friend of mine. He goes, tell me what you're busy with. I go, I have no good answers.
No good answers.
I'm a professional cell phone holder.
Yeah, here you go. Oh, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. Yeah, I will go back to kind of Dion's point. You're absolutely right. What we have done together in 5 years with this community is I mean, it's my goal, right? I said this while I was sitting on that couch at 45. I'm trying to create something that outlives me by 50 years. There's no chance any of this happens if I had a job. I had no cycles.
No.
Like you, it was 20-hour days, all encompassing. But yeah, I mean, I'm certainly happier, having done this the last 5 years. But again, I don't know, maybe it's just the type A or this mind worm in my head. It feels like I didn't finish the race, right? Because I'd always said 50, but we're in a new race and I'm having fun. But yeah. All right.
I always said that with a revenue goal with the product, Mike, and I just had to realize I'm never going to get there if everyone else isn't going to do their part. So what am I doing? Like now this is just insanity. So it's time to move. So yeah, that was it.
There you go. All right. Another question, folks. Remember, you can ask us questions. We are here for you. Actually, let me say this first. We are going to put on school community tickets are already on sale for our February event. They will go on sale to the general public tomorrow. August 1st was the committed date. And the first presentation, as we talked about last event, is going to be the lumberjack and his lovely wife, Ashley.
It's true.
Really keying on what Jason and Jen did last year, kind of going back in the history books and talking about their journey from a single house hack to this empire they've built. So thank you for being first.
Oh, I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to see Ashley on stage.
That's going to be awesome. That's going to be awesome.
It is. It's good.
All right. So question from Trade Better 99. If banks are freezing on lending, what are your plans to gather funds? Private investors, hard money? Matt, we'll go to you first.
Cash flow, just cash flow. And at the end of the day, I'll have no problem getting debt. I won't, because I'm big enough where I won't have a problem getting debt. Enough performing assets, enough of a balance sheet, enough good debt that you already have. Like this is where it's the Grant Cardone answer just modified, which is he wasn't too big to fail last time. Now he's too big to fail.
Oh, he is clearly too big to fail. Yep.
Now for me, I don't believe that I'm too big to fail by any stretch, but I'm in that area where, because I'm with small banks,
right.
Wells Fargo, Chase, Manhattan, none of these banks care about me, but that small little 2 billion AUM under management, they care about me. I found out when they're in their top 25 borrowers, they care about me a little bit. So they're going to be interested in making me make sure this business grows based on the returns. So, yeah.
Dion, any thoughts on what you might do?
Yeah. So I have people ask or say often, like in the chat, thank you for sharing your information and what you've learned. I'm also still learning, and I would steal a page out of Matt's book, right? So if lending disappears, they're going to do this. They could do this thing where they say, okay, you can have 10 conventional loans in your name. And we're going to shift that back to 4, like we did in 2013 to 2017. You can only have 4 unless you're house hacking.
Exactly.
Because we can't limit your owner occupied options because housing is a right, right? And some people say that. And I would, if I wanted to grow my portfolio and I wanted to use a loan and I wanted to be bankable, I would do another house hack.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that. When I think about the lending environment, should it get tight like 2012 tight? There's a couple of things I would coach people on. One is, to Dion and Matt's point, owner occupant is where I would go. And again, you got FHA, Fannie Mae, but you also got 2 or 3K loans. You know, you can do live-in flips. I mean, there's so many ways to use your home, right? Home ownership as a way to really move the ball forward. And again, if the lending environment tightens up, you know, I always look for value add. So I would get really good at 203K loans. I mean, that's where me, Kevin started, right? The world was on fire, and he found a heavy fixer in SoCal somewhere and used a 203K loan. I mean, and sometimes we make it too hard. And, you know, if it really does get tight out there and owner or investor loans go from 20-25% down to 35 or 40 and all these other things happen, it's like, well, okay, maybe I'll just move. I'll go, you know, I'll turn my current house into a rental and do something else. Second, if I'm right about the buyer's market, at least in the last half of 2024, it may go into 25, but I don't know. There's going to be a lot of motivated sellers that start raising their hand. And I'm already seeing people in my community or our community talk about communicating with sellers about potentially seller financing, whether that be the entire purchase or just the second. And again, this is why the 50-40-10, the 90% CLTV loan that I've been talking about for a year and a half with Stephen Dow is so amazing. It's just because you could do deal structures that are win-win. The big thing about a slowing market, and, you know, frankly, I hope lenders turn off, because I crushed it last time that happened.
Absolutely.
Right. So because I know where to get creative. And, you know, we just got to have conversations with folks. And then lastly, if banks turned off like last time, I would just do private money again.
Right.
I mean, last time I did 12%, right? And
There's
this time I did 10. So
there's a lot. Number one, there's a lot more money out there.
yeah.
Right. Like there's a lot more money out there with people that have money. They have a lot more than they used to have. That's number one. Number two is, and Mike, to your point, which is not only is there that a lot more money out there, but seller financing, 10 years ago, you and I had done one, right? Now, what do you like? That's a real number now. That's not like a seller financing. What's that? Explain that to me.
Yeah.
They happen all the time, every day, nonstop.
Yep.
And so that's now a thing that not only you can use as a tool as the buyer, but you can use it as the seller. You can be the seller now too. And when you're later on in your journey, but even more so is now that's something that the common person knows about. This isn't smoke and mirrors anymore. There's people doing those deals all the time. I would venture to guess that maybe 1 in 100 deals 10 years ago was seller financing. And I would guess now it's probably more like 10 or 12 out of 100 deals are seller financing.
And the point is, it's going to go higher as the
I
lending
agree.
tightens, right? It's just a
Absolutely.
mathematical formula. So again, I think it's about skilling up. That's something we do in this community all the time.
Sure.
You know, Ty gave us a 6-hour masterclass. Go watch it. It's there for free. Yeah. A slower market with tighter lending is like nirvana for real estate investors.
Yep.
Right? Most people are going to flip out, but slower buyer's market with tighter lending is awesome for me. So we do have some brave soul who raised his hand. Trade better. Ask to unmute. Yep, there you go. Ask your questions, buddy.
Hey, yeah, sorry, this is just a follow-up
Sure.
for that. What's the best way to present yourself to fellow private money investors or anything like that? I'm hitting the ground running, 3 doors already, so I'm just trying to see where I can go, keep going from there.
Track record.
Matt. Yeah,
Track
Matt, you want to?
Yeah.
Yeah, track record. You have to show them. So that's where, so all of our courses kind of teach some of these things, But that's where, when you're the operator and you're the one that chokes the throat at the end of the day, that's the road, that's the bucket that they want to be in. That's the boat they want to be in. They want to know that I'm going to come and choke your throat when you're not delivering what you said you were going to deliver, but they know that because now they're not just looking at the asset. Now they're looking at the operator. And that's what I've always tried to make the game, is the operator. Other people go to the same bank and get a no, and I get a yes because I'm the operator, and I can show them track record. I can show them process. I can show them efficiencies. I can show them all of the ways that they're safer with me, because they have to lend. Their option is not lending. They have to lend, but it's the bear. I don't have to outrun the bear. I only have to outrun you. That's what the secret is going to be, is it's going to be showing that you're that much more efficient and better and stronger operator than the people that are going and asking for money, and you're going to be the one that ends up with it.
Now, I'll give you some actions that I would do if I was in your situation. I would somehow document the 3 deals you've done today, right? Purchase price to story, performance, and if they're not performing, document. You just got to document the authentic truth of the 3 purchases. Second, document what you're doing every day. I'm looking at this buy box. I look at it every day. I can tell you about every listing, right? Because what the potential private money lender wants to know is, A, you've done it. B, you are doing the work and can communicate yourself. And then C, the next thing you got to do is be able to articulate why private money is secured, right? Document the whole process, answer the questions before they're asked. What happens if I don't pay? Great. You have this little note and this trust deed, and you walk over here and you foreclose and you get the asset. And right. So talk about all of those, talk about all of the, concerns ahead of time. Just step up and own that. Yeah. And then the last thing, I mean, even back in 2000, I don't know what it was, 11, 12, I've actually never asked for $1 of private money. And I think I've borrowed almost 10 million bucks, maybe 9 million. And that's because I just document what I do. I just documented the purchases. I just kept at it. First, I did it on a website called wealthbuildingpro.com that doesn't exist. Then I did it on YouTube. You can go back to my first 1,000 videos and actually see me walking through properties, right? And
I watched them. Yeah.
yeah, so again, it's just documenting. Just document, and pretty soon, money comes to you because you have a track record. You're showing you do the work. You can articulate why it's secure, and you perform. It's pretty easy.
So I talk often about the 2 things that tell you when you're ready to buy, when you should buy your next property. Neither one of them is that you have funding, right? Are you ready? You've studied your market, you got your reserves, your down payment, your closing costs, money for immediate repairs. There's nothing major going on in your life. And second, did you find the deal? So let's use Millennial Mike as an example. He comes to our local meetup here, and there's a lot of people who want to start that are not finding the deals that they want. They hear about people getting better deals, but they've got money and they want to deploy. So they literally go to Mike and they say, hey, can you take my 50 grand? Just please take it. And Mike says, I can't. He's got the track record. He's proven the reputation, but he's got to find the deal. So what's your deal flow, your analysis? And then you have to make sure that the first ones that you do set you up for success, because that's when they say document your processes, you need to be documenting the processes of the first couple of private loans that you do so that those people have such a positive return, like Matt sending his email. Hey, I just sent your payment. Have a great month. So that month that comes up when he doesn't send the, hey, you got your payment, they're going to reach out and say, can you borrow some more money from us? Mm-hmm. Right. So document the ones that you're doing and find the deals, and then protect your reputation with those deals being the right ones.
Excellent. Thank you.
Very, very cool. All right. Again, folks, you want to raise your hands, you can. Otherwise, we'll go to comments. This one's from Adam. Basically asked, does the nervousness ever leave? Basically, it looks like he's closing on his 3rd rental. Congratulations.
Awesome.
And he's asking about, does the nervousness ever leave? What do you think?
Still no.
Oh. Never leaves?
No, it really still, I mean, it's I don't sleep well the night before I close.
Really?
I didn't get a good night's sleep last night, and we're closing on something today, but we're selling something. So I closed out all the paperwork. And so now I'm still like, all right, what can happen? What can happen? So yeah, I still get nervous because in a land where you might inherit a tenant, in a land where you might have missed something on inspection, in a land, And I know that there's going to be a ton of heavy lifting in the next 60 days when I onboard that property.
Right.
So I'm a little bit nervous about how that will go every time, because humans are unpredictable, and so
No doubt. Yeah.
a lot of properties, what changed the most in the last few years was how many properties we acquired that were not empty.
Yeah.
Because Mike, you and I, when we were doing
Oh,
that in the
yeah.
crash, everything was empty. In fact, everything was not only empty, it was freaking shut off.
Oh yeah.
You
Boarded
couldn't
up,
inspect
shut off.
anything.
Yeah.
Like it was a nightmare to get a showing where you could be like, I gotta test the water, and it's
Climb
off
through
at
the
the
window.
street. I
How
literally
many times
bought
did you
I bought a
yeah.
street key so I could turn the water on at a house. Like literally, that's what I had to do. But that's the thing that's the most different now in this market, is that I'm inheriting a lot of tenants, and that's the wild card. And factually speaking, I've not done very well with inherited tenants.
Yeah. How about you,
'cause I'm-
Dion? Does the nervous end?
I put in the chat too. I think the nervousness just changes forms. It's
Yeah.
not that it ends. I don't think I'm nervous when I sign at closing the way I was in the beginning. And so Adam, you're getting your third one. So on those first couple, you make your first offer. Your fear is, what if they don't take it? What if I'm outbid? Then the fear becomes, well, what if they take it? Now I've got to pay for an appraisal and an inspection. I have to meet tenants, do a landlord introduction letter. And then you close on it. And if there's a tenant in place, you're like, okay, great. I got the deposit from title, but are they going to pay their rent? Do I have an eviction to coming? Or if it's empty and you place a tenant, how long is it going to be empty? Like your fear just keeps morphing as you're going along. Then you find a tenant and you place it and you get that cashier's check and you're like, great. But now the fear just becomes, will they pay that first month's rent? Because I could have just placed a professional tenant myself instead of purchase one with one in place, right? So that fear is going to constantly be changing. So what we do is we mitigate the fear. You're closing on a property. Did you do an inspection? Do you have an inspection period? Did you have an appraisal contingency? And as you're closing, is your landlord introduction letter going to include all of the things that you want to do, right? Not just how to contact you, but what can they contact you about? What can you put in there? And when you meet, are you using a property manager? Have you vetted them, right? Just all the things you can mitigate this closing. Do you have the reserves to handle the gotchas that could pop up, right? If you put every penny you have into a property, you're not going to sleep at night, because if the well doesn't work tomorrow, what's your solution? But now if you have reserves, and you have good bankability, even if something comes up like you need to put $50,000 into a well after you close on a property, means, okay, do I now sell it? Do I now put the 50,000 into it and protect the asset? You have options. So the fear just becomes a business decision after that. So how do you mitigate the fear that it's just going to change?
Adam, it looks like you're off mute. Did you want to follow up or ask some questions about this?
No, not really. This is my first time on Zoom with you guys. I'm sitting in the
Awesome.
parking lot an hour early for the title
Nice.
because it makes me
Nice.
nervous. And I say thank you guys again.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's
Understand.
awesome. Yeah. Well, so I didn't really answer the question. I guess I'll go against these two guys as well. I haven't been nervous in a long time, but that probably comes from doing hundreds of transactions, having the reserves, to Dion's point. I don't self-manage like these two guys. So if I have a problem tenant or any of that, I pay people to fix that stuff. My
That's why
returns
you're
are
not
lower.
nervous.
Yeah, I'm not nervous at all.
But
It's
that's
like
you're not nervous. It's because it's like you're only getting the call with somebody complaining to you going, Mike, are you serious? This guy's a total S show. And every tenant that we've talked to is growing weed in the place. Like, but that's not your problem to pick up. And like, so you're not putting 2 months into it. Like there's yeah. And that's why you're not nervous.
No, not nervous at all. I will admit that I don't know if I would call it nervousness, but when I'm selling something, I do ask the questions about how does this fall apart, right? Like you talked about earlier, because there's a big check likely coming at the end of that. So that's where I might get nervous. Yeah. Fatty. But yeah, I haven't been nervous buying anything in a long time, but part of that's because of the process I go through, right? I am actually more nervous at the beginning of a cycle, finding the deal, doing the inspections. Once it's in escrow and Olivia and I are committed to closing, I have zero nerves because it's at that point, it's a process that title hands over. I am most nervous between locking up a price and getting the inspection report, because that's where gotchas can happen. My numbers could blow up. That's where I am nervous. because I want to get every deal over the finish line. And that's, to me, that's, at least today, that's where they blow up. So that's where I am nervous, that part of the cycle.
But that's the worst part. Like when
Of
you
course.
close, so Adam, when you, when you close, Adam, now those tenants are yours. They're your responsibility. All that building has to offer is yours. Yay, yours. Or, oh, what did I do? Yours. And that's the part for me where it's like, okay, now I'm taking ownership of whatever problems there are. I'm taking ownership of the inflow and the cash. Yes, which is wonderful. I'm taking ownership of the equity, but I'm also going to be taking ownership of that relationship with the tenant. Did they hate the previous landlord? Are they the reason that the previous landlord sold? I literally had a guy close and I actually asked him and I said, hey, listen, so we've already signed. Everything's been notarized. There's no take backsies. You have the money. I need to understand, is the tenant why you sold? And he goes, it absolutely is. I was like, crap.
Yeah.
He goes, why would you ask me that? And I go, because I didn't see a reason why you would sell. I said, the numbers were good. The property is good. Like, and the funny thing is he was just too chicken to get rid of her.
Yeah.
I'm not chicken. So I was
There
just
you go.
like, so we started down the path. But so Adam, congratulations on door number 3. But yeah, so we get nervous about different things because I know I'm probably going to own a problem and Mike
Yeah.
is probably going to give somebody a problem.
Yeah, exactly. I pay somebody to fix problems. All right, we got a commercial question from Troy. Looks like he has the ability to buy a retail property, seller financing, lots of deferred maintenance, current tenants paying below market. Says they want to stay for 3 to 5 years. Is going to submit a disrespectful offer. Blah, blah, blah. My long term would be to build reserves, initial base. I'm trying to get to the meat of the question. Have retail on the ground floor to 2 to 4
I
living
think that
spaces.
is the meat. I think the meat is that it's retail and it's well under market rent.
And and again, just reading between the lines, because I think this was actually posted in school as well. I could be wrong. But you're going to need a bunch of cash to do the make ready. Deferred maintenance is called above, which he may or may not have. So let's talk. So you bought a retail establishment. I actually own 2 that are commercial bottom, residents up top. So I own some of this as well.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Matt, on something like this?
It's nice that they want to spend 3 to 5 years there, but what kind of a business is it? How well are they positioned? How long have they been there? How important to the community are they? Are they something that is discretionary income that's going to dry up, if we do in fact hit recession? There's a lot of questions there, and that's what makes me so nervous about retail all the time. I used to own 8 retail places and now, or 9 retail places, and now I've cut 3 of those off. So I own 6. And then where there's markets above it. So yeah, I think that the make ready stuff, it depends on what the make ready stuff is. Is it something where you can make the plan over a 3 or 4 year period where before you lose that, commercial tenant, that you're making those improvements, that way somebody else is walking into a much nicer establishment? Because it sounds like to me that this deal is what I call an all-in deal, which means you're not doing other transactions for quite a while. Is it that kind of a deal?
Yeah, that's what I see too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like an all-in deal to me.
Yeah. The deferred maintenance, again, it seems like the previous owner just bled it for cash. It sounds like there's a lot of work ahead of you, which you may or may not have the funds to kind of tackle. I can tell you doing a remodel with existing tenants is complicated.
Yeah.
Right. Because they're still running their store. So how are you going to do that off hours? Whatnot? Are they going to ask for rent concessions while you're remodeling the place? I think there's a lot here. It does feel like, hey, I got a seller financing opportunity, which is awesome. But you can lose money with seller financing too. Right. So you've got to make sure the deal ties together. I would probably, on something like this, I would probably look for some kind of holdback on given the remodel, like something. I don't know the numbers here, but let's pretend it's 300 grand. And let's pretend they want, I don't know, let's say 50 grand down, 250.
You muted.
I muted. I'm not
It was
muted.
really good.
It was really good. Am I still muted?
Can't hear you now. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, Mike.
All right,
I don't know
so-
what
Okay.
I'm talking about.
What I would say, because I think I know where Mike's going to go with this. I might keep on testing your mic, but yeah, you're better off, instead of asking for a massive discount, also ask to overpay 20 grand and then get that as a credit where it's actually cash, and then you can fund those repairs. Right? Is that right, Mike? What you're gonna
Yeah.
do?
Yeah. The other thing I might want to do is delay payments. Like if you anticipate a year remodeling, I might go in with, hey, I can't give you payments for 6 months, something like that. You've got to structure. You have to be able to hold the asset through the duration.
Correct.
And if you're really that close to skin and bones, it could get pretty tight. So be
Agreed.
careful. I have only a couple of minutes here. Troy, your hand is up, and I'm not sure if that's from before or whatnot.
No, I raised my hand 'cause I'm in a patch area. I don't know how well you guys can hear me.
You're good.
Okay, just to explain this commercial project. It's a retail space. It's an auto parts store is what it is. It's a single level building that has a lot of deferred maintenance in it. Pretty much I was looking at the long-term play as being able to just buy and hold it, get it for a good interest rate and cash flow enough to build up some reserves to where later down the line, look at potentially developing it, like completely knocking it down to the ground, building a whole new structure where there's retail on the bottom with 4 floors above, and get like a developmental loan on it. It's in a very like unique small town downtown area within like a block off the main strip where it's growing in an area. There's hardly any livable space in that area, and the city is wanting to grow to bring in more people in living spaces, but they don't have the space to develop.
Yeah.
So it's using existing structures. And so
The
my play is like, is it really worth pursuing? Because I know that I could get it probably for a really good price and it's still cash flow. And then what? So I don't know where
And then what?
how to plan my exit strategy is. Like, well, okay, I have it 5 years, build up, say $30,000 on the cash flow on it or something like that. And then what? I could turn around and sell it. The problem is it's, in order to change the use, the city is requiring you to, add a sprinkler system. And it's at that point, you're investing like $200,000-$300,000 in the project.
It'll be more.
It'll be more. Yeah.
Oh,
What I would tell you in this situation, because we are butting up against my time, unfortunately, is some things you could do in a situation like this is buy it cash flow for 5 years, then do all the paperwork to rezone the property and then sell it with approved plans, something like that. I've seen that work for folks. But yeah, tackling kind of ground up development. Shoot, I had a hard time just doing an ADU. Freaking city was all over me.
Yeah, Troy. So I do this. I'm doing this on a building right now.
Yeah, the jail.
The jail's 8,000 square feet. My budget's 1.2 million.
Yeah, it's a heavy lift.
6,300 square foot space. So yeah, I knew it's going to be in the millions to do.
Yeah, but the problem is debt. Getting debt on that. Getting debt on that's going to be hard, especially if we're in a tough economy and no one knows 3-5 years from now, and they're going to require massive capital requirements. I had to pay cash for my building just to get the loan for 1-2. I had to pay cash for the building. So I was hundreds of thousands of dollars out of pocket. Couldn't do that in the first 10 years investing. Now I can do that. But the first 10, 15 years, I couldn't have written the check for the building cash. So I could then do the project that you're talking about. Is the toughest part, and still own the building and still be the one that actually is not like 17 partners on the thing.
Yeah.
That's my take.
There you go, guys. Well, this was a chance in the school community. I appreciate you all being here. Troy, if you want to follow up on these questions, you can just post them in the school community. Both Dion and Matt are part of school. They will add in some additional thoughts there. You're all amazing. Take care. Later.